Okay, we're going to look at Teaching Standard 5, meeting the needs of students here in this presentation. Can you take a moment to consider, before I go through the pupil study, a few points? How did teachers meet your needs at school? What needs did you have? And what can you learn from your own experiences and draw into your teaching? So consider that, and that will really help root you and think about what you might be facing in school. The following information is taken from pages 29 to 30 of the School Induction Booklet and Directed Tasks 2016 and 17. You can find it on learn.gold in the secondary phase program area. Right, you are going to have a go at pupil study. You should already, if you're on AP1, have identified a Key Stage 3 class on your AP1 timetable, and you should have really found out about pupils in this class. You should find out about pupils in this class and what their interests are, what they like, enjoy, they find difficult about your subject. Your subject tutor will provide you guidance during subject sessions on how you might elicit this information. So keep a record of how you collected the information and summarize what you found out, 300 to 400 words. So strategies to look at there are close observances to begin with, perhaps just without intervening and without questioning, just seeing what particular pupils are doing in the class and making notes carefully, being a bit of a spy, as it were. And then you can ask open-ended questions, possibly in a more relaxed fashion, to find out more information about the student. Firing off questions in a very kind of aggressive way is not going to get that much useful information. It's often best to have what we call sort of semi-structured interview, where you just kind of gently ask, how are you finding the subject? What do you find difficult? What interests you? So, and keep a few notes of that. You can go down the other route and have a questionnaire with more structured questions which they write down, but often you might not find out what really is going on with a sort of more official questionnaire. Your task here is to genuinely find out what's going on with a particular student and think really precisely about how their needs might be met. Identify one pupil you'll focus on. From the information you've gathered, you will identify a pupil for this study. Discuss your choice with your mentor or class teacher. You will need to make this choice carefully. For example, will a pupil be in the class for most lessons? It's important to anonymize your work so the pupil cannot be identified. For example, a pseudonym for the pupil. So ethical standards must be met with this investigation, and you must not use their name, and possibly anonymize the school and the class and the teacher so that nothing really is going to get out. You need to be ethical and moral about this. Write a rationale to show why you chose this pupil, 200 to 300 words. In the subject session at university in the autumn term, you will discuss why you chose a pupil and what you hope to learn from this pupil study and how your practice might develop as a result of this. Your rationale may include: who is this child? What needs might you need to address? Any barriers to learning or making progress in your subject you have identified, and how this study may support your progress. So you need to look at what actually does this child need to do to improve in the subject you're looking at, and you need some sort of thought and discussion about that. And what are the barriers? Now think carefully. Is the work too easy, too difficult? Are there emotional behavioural difficulties that are barriers? Are there social difficulties? Or are there language difficulties? or are there a kind of a lot of different things which are making it difficult for the child to really appreciate the curriculum and to learn in an effective way? I personally, in my own investigation, think emotional issues are very important to consider. So if the child is bored, why are they bored precisely? Is it that the teaching is not engaging them? Is it because of other issues that, actually they just find it very hard to connect with the material that is in front of them for a particular reason? They're just not motivated. Is the kind of grouping in the class, if they're sitting in rows or groups or pairs, is that affecting them? Is what's happening before or after the lesson affecting them? So think carefully about that issue. Keep a portfolio of evidence. You'll gather data during AP1 which will demonstrate how you supported the pupil's progress during AP1. The portfolio of evidence may include copies of the samples of pupils' work, lesson plans indicating you have differentiated the work for this class, not just the pupil, evaluation of lesson plans, feedback from lessons, and records of any discussions you may have with the pupil. Feedback from other professionals such as other teachers or SEN teachers, SEND teachers, if we to say it correctly. Think about the differentiation issue. Now, differentiation can come in many guises, and I think I'll do another presentation on this, but you can differentiate by task and have different tasks for students, or it could be that you have set things up. For example, you've set up collaborative learning where a more able student works with a less able student, and actually that has enabled differentiation to take place. Frequently, discussion and the nurturing of speaking and listening skills really helps with differentiation, so consider that as well. Reflections. So have a discussion of what you've found. You may want to make reference to how your initial ideas about the pupil developed or changed as the study progressed, your understanding of factors that can inhibit the pupil's ability to learn and how you overcame these. That's your understanding of barriers. That's a typo there. Teaching approaches and strategies you have used to engage and support pupils. And how have you evaluated the impact of the approaches and strategies you have used? How have you supported the pupil's progress in your subject during AP1? So you're looking at the sorts of strategies that really improved and helped the student. Much of the evidence suggests that you need two major things to happen in the classroom to help students who are struggling and their needs are not being met. Firstly, the content needs to be appropriate enough. It needs to be just too difficult so they're going to learn something, but not too easy. But it can't be too difficult. If it's too difficult, it's just out of what Vygotsky calls a zone of proximal development, and they just cannot access it. And it needs to be engaging too, doesn't it? They have to be motivated to learn, and there might be a whole host of issues involved there as to why they might not be motivated, and you need to investigate that. And then think about your own teaching strategies. Have you enabled people to collaborate, to work with a variety of other students? Have they had the chance to have any learning sort of scaffold, as Vygotsky calls it, where someone has actually gone through and helped them access something that may be quite difficult, and that again might be to do with collaborative learning, or it might be to do with a particular worksheet or a particular presentation, like a video that's enabled them to access the curriculum. And you're going to give a presentation in January where you present your findings to the students in your subject area. You bring your reflection portfolio to a subject session. Your work will be peer reviewed. You need brief conclusion. In your conclusion, you should write briefly about any implications arising from pupil study for your planning and teaching, so you're able to plan and meet the needs of all pupils in your classes.